This is FX Medicine. I'm Andrew Whitfield Cook. We're at the UIC 29 Medical Cannabis Symposium. We're speaking with Professor David Caldicott. Now, you work at Calvary?
That's right.
Calvary Hospital in your clinical...
clinical... I'll put it inside. Too late, keep going.
Too late. This is going to be a really fast talk. In your clinical life, you work at Calvary Hospital.
That's right.
Your academic research is published through ANU University.
That's correct. Yep.
Education with doctors to prescribe, to become educated so they know how to prescribe cannabis products has been one of the big blockages with patient access. So how do we access this? What's happening at the moment? Where do we need to move to in the future?
Well, in fact, I mean, there is some good movement in Australia at the moment. We had a panel session yesterday where all of the elements of the panel were asked, what's good about what's going on in Australia. And apart from like crickets and a bit of tumbleweed, what our Canadian colleagues were able to say, for example, was that the systems that we're using, such as they are for teaching doctors, are pretty good. There's just not nearly enough provision.
They were commenting on the
Australian education systems. We don't have any education in our medical schools at the moment, and as the Jesuits will tell you, if you give us the boy at 7, we'll give you the man at 17. So it's very important that we start teaching our next generation of doctors what this is all about, so they can deal with the business of medicinal cannabis. We in the ANU set up the first medicinal cannabis course in Australia. There are another 2 now. And the purpose of our course is not to necessarily spruik the cause of cannabis, but merely give the medical colleagues the toolkit to know who should and who shouldn't be prescribed cannabis, like any other medicine at all. So this year we'll see a significant expansion in that program. And in fact, we've actually been asked to bring it internationally. So we're kind of working hard to meet the demand, really, because we don't really have the resources.
So these were in the G8. So you've got ANU, 2 other universities.
So in fact, they're not affiliated with universities. We're the only university-affiliated G8.
Right.
And of course, being Canberra, being the ANU, we have a certain way of doing things there. There's a degree of imagination and an initiative, which allows us to do things that a lot of other places are a little bit nervous about.
So that was going to be my next question. You're saying they're nervous. Why are they nervous? Like, if this is going to be the biggest I told you so in medical history, patients are accessing it. Not being educated is forcing them into illicit drug trade and illicit access.
Singing to the choir, man.
Why are they not breaking down doors coming to you saying we need education?
They are. We have a waiting list now that greatly exceeds the number of people we've already provided the course to, and we've provided the course to over 1,000 doctors, nurses and pharmacists. But I think what needs to happen, we're very fortunate. We are accredited by the Royal Australian College of General Practice and the Australian College of Rural and Remote Medicine. Some of the colleges understand the demand, understand the importance of education. Some of our legislating and regulatory colleagues are unhappy about relinquishing any of the control whatsoever. The narrative that we provide, and most educators will provide, is one that's based on global practice. And there's quite a unique narrative that's being pushed in Australia that where there's dissonance between what we know from global practice and how Australia wants to do it in a very narrow way. So when I say Australia wants to do it, the regulators, the legislators, and some of the politicians. My own feeling, unfortunately, is that's very much tied in with control and money, and patient interests are definitely not being put at the forefront of this.
So I know we've got to be quick. So what's your call out? What needs to change?
Well, I think that doctors need to work hard at seeking out those people who are prepared to provide education. They should not be afraid of just merely learning. They should not be afraid of proselytizing. I think there is a tradition in medical education, particularly associated with new products, for pharmaceutical companies, for example, to spruik their product really hard. Most of the education that's going around in Australia at the moment regarding medicinal cannabis is not that sort of education. It's just about telling people what's good, what's bad, where the science lies. And so the people who are providing education about medicinal cannabis in Australia at the moment are not, generally speaking, working for any one company or another. They're just trying to expand the information base. So if our GPs, and particularly our GPs, I think that's part of the problem, is that there is this meme or trope going around in medicine at the moment, hashtag not just a GP. Right. And it is ludicrous that this space wasn't set up to be occupied by family practitioners who clearly know their patients better than anyone else. And at the moment, it's specialists who are, providing blockades. And of course, any colleagues in that space are going to be apprehensive if the specialists are saying, I don't know about it and I can't prescribe. So it's a sort of a vicious circle at the moment. I think we'd like to see more of the colleges get on board. I think we should also be seeing the regulators and legislators ensuring that the will of the overwhelming body of patients, and indeed non-patient population in Australia, is provided for. Because what we're seeing at the moment is not representative of what is wished for by the Australian population.
And that indeed was my next very quick question, and that is, if they don't change, what's going to happen?
Well, you're just going to have a scenario where, yet again, the Kiwis are going to overtake us. So you're not only going to be
football and all.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're going to be responsible for the management of Australian medical refugees, because it's absolutely certain that now that New Zealand has got the bit between the teeth, they are making strong advances. All of their GPs, anybody in Australia can prescribe CBD product. And that's ridiculous that that's not the case in Australia. So they will go faster, and people will go across the Tasman for the treatment. And that makes Australia, in this space, a third world country. Yeah.
Professor David Caldicott, thank you so much for joining us on
Anytime,
FX Medicine.
Man. Pleasure.
This is FX Medicine. I'm Andrew Whitfield Cook.